Well, welcome back to the podcasts here at Fight Your Own Battles. I can tell you, they tell me that time flies when you're having fun. Well, I can assure you that time just flies. It's been a really busy kind of late winter, spring for me. Wargaming is only ever a hobby, and of course when things get busy with family and all the other stuff, hobbies tend to get pushed to the back. So we've been a little while since we've got ourselves together, but we're going to finish today the series on Fight Your Own Battles by looking at logistics. Now, in my experience, you can deal with logistics in a war game one of three ways. Firstly, you can simply ignore it, and you can have anything able to fire and move without any restriction across the whole of the game, and that's it. Secondly, you can have logistics dictated by the scenario. So if you are, for argument's sake, fighting in a siege situation, or perhaps in a situation like Sea Lion, where German supply was one of the key elements, and supply is a factor in the game, then you can write some rules in that says you can only move this far or fire this number of times. The third option is to have a mechanism which dictates throughout the game, and looking forward perhaps throughout the campaign, what your logistical position is. And this is the option which is adopted in Heroes All and Fight Your Own Battles. Now, there's nothing to say that options 1 and 2 are incorrect. If you want to fight a one-off game and you want to have no restrictions or specific scenario restrictions, that's entirely up to you. The reason that I have opted for option 3 is that Fight Your Own Battles very much links in with Fight Your Own Wars, and one of the backbones of a campaign clearly are the logistical questions. So it makes sense to simply decant those Fight Your Own Wars logistics rules down into Fight Your Own Battles. Now, the limits that are imposed by Heroes All and Fight Your Own Battles are listed within the Heroes All rules on page 70 for logistics, and that talks about infantry, crew served weapons, artillery, tanks and this kind of stuff. And it makes the point that the limitations, should you wish to employ them, are already written into the rules and appear on the codex cards. If you look at any of the codex cards, you'll see that under shots it gives you two figures divided by a slash. The first figure is the number of shots that are allowed per bound. Now, most things it's 1, for some things it's 2, and then you get a slash, and then you get a second figure, and that second figure is the number of bounds on which the weapon is permitted to fire before it runs out of ammunition. Now, that's a key point. It's not the number of shots, it's the number of bounds on which you can fire. So if, for example, you're looking at a light mortar which has 2 shots per bound, the fact that it's allowed to take 10 shots means that it can fire on 10 bounds. That's not 2 shots a bound for 5 bounds, that's 10 bounds of fire. When we start looking at Fight Your Own Wars, which is coming quite soon, you will see that there are rules as to how the logistics situation is played out for each of your forces on the table. And whilst it could on the surface be a very long-winded and difficult paper exercise, the whole point is to try and keep it as simple as possible, and hopefully that's what's happened. So for the minute, if we're talking about individual games, playing Heroes All or Fight Your Own Battles, you haven't got to get bogged down too much in logistics, so I'm not going to say too much more about it. The last couple of points I'm going to make is that there are different logistic rules for aircraft and boats, so it does differ slightly from the rules that work for guns and artillery, tanks, that kind of stuff. And secondly, that supply itself in the form of a convoy of lorries can be attacked on the tabletop. You can play out a game whereby a force attacks a convoy that's got to move from one side of the table to the other, and there are some rules as to how you destroy supply. But for now, in terms of a one-off game, that is all I'm going to say. Your card sheet has a space on it that allows you to maintain a list of shots that you start with and shots that you fired, and therefore you can keep a simple record to keep up to date with the logistics on the table. It gets a bit more complicated clearly when we start talking about campaigns, but we're not doing that just yet. We're doing that in a little while. Thanks for sticking along. Thanks for putting up with my forced absence over the last couple of months. We'll be back with some more information and the start of the Fight Your Own Wars rules, which are coming together slowly. Stay safe. I'll see you soon. Thank you very much for your interest in what I do. There's more information at www.fightyourownbattles.co.uk. Like, subscribe for more, hit that notifications bell, and when there's more to come, you'll be the first to know.